Welcome to The Next Word. I'm your host, Christine Warnke. On today's show, I will be speaking with American sculptor Joan Danziger. Danziger's fantastical creations have captivated audiences for more than 5 decades. Danziger is best known for her vibrant, dreamlike sculptures of beetles, ravens, horses, and hybrid human-animal works that merge mythology, psychology, and the natural world into a single, imaginative universe. Over the years, her work has been exhibited widely across the United States, and her sculptures are held in major collections, including the Smithsonian American Art Museum, the National Museum of Women in the Arts, and the New Orleans Museum of Art. Today, Joan Danziger stands as a singular voice in contemporary sculpture and artist who invites viewers into a world where imagination takes physical form. Her newest exhibition, Ravens, Spirits of the Sky, showcases 24 large glass and metal ravens at American University Museum in Washington, D.C. So, unbelievable. Let's start at the beginning. New York City, where you grew up. Talk about your childhood. What inspired you to get into art?
Well, I was very lucky. I've always been, I had a sister, but I always went my own way. And even at a young age, my parents encouraged me with my art career. I was always doing little drawings of animals. So I very early on went to the Metropolitan, MoMA. And the one minute I went to MoMA, maybe I was 6 or 7 or 8, I was attracted to Magritte, Dali, Peter Bloom, and Max Ernst, and all the surrealist artists, because they were kind of into a dream world that I loved. And I dreamt a lot about the juxtaposition of shapes and fantasy that they had on their paintings. And then I also did a lot of drawings. And at a young age, I went to Parsons School of Design, where I did drawings. And then I graduated. I always accelerated. I was in a hurry to get out of school. So at 16, well, actually a little later, I entered Cornell University. I was about 16 and a half. And I was lucky. I entered a Bachelor of Fine Art program in the School of Architecture. And it was very conservative, but I always laugh. I was a goth before they were goth. I had long black hair down to here, had a black cape, and used to kind of neck in the cemeteries with my boyfriends. It was really a fun time. It was really interesting. And then I went to Woodstock, New York, to the Art Students League. And that was an opening into another world. My parents were, middle-class parents, but there I entered a bohemian world. And I was very lucky. I met a woman, Ruth Wolford, whose parents were writers. And it was opening up another century of art to me. It was before the Woodstock Festival. And then I graduated Cornell. I was 19 with a Bachelor of Fine Art. So and actually I was lucky at Cornell. There were only about 7 of us in the classes. So every morning we did figure drawing, and then we did mixed media. And I hated sculpture. I thought it was messy. So I basically became a draftsperson and a painter. I was an abstract painter when everyone was doing abstract painting at that time.
Right. But you got your inspiration from Dali and others.
Yeah. Well, I had a very, very basic training in art of drawing and painting, which I think every artist should have.
So you are making headlines in many different news outlets, including, of course, Forbes, and recently the Washington Post.
That's right.
You had 3 pages on you in the Washington Post. But so what keeps your creative energy alive? I mean, today, at the age of 91.
91. I'll be 92. So what keeps a lot of artists' creative energy is not only creating the work, but also exhibiting it. Because you don't want to do artwork that a lot of my friends have stopped working because they have no place to exhibit. So I do my work in series. In every series that I've done, my trees, my bicycle series, they've always been exhibited. So when I started doing my Scarab Beetles, Jack Rasmussen from the Katzen came and said, let's put it into the Katzen. And 80 of them were crawling up the walls. And then my horse series were shown at the National Sporting Library Museum in Middleburg. And now I have a retrospective. So a retrospective is probably the most important exhibition you can have for an artist because it shows the scope of your work. And the work starts with a sculpture called Bird on a Scooter, done in 1968, which is lent by the George Washington University, owns that, to my present work. And that's at the Cats. And then my second show, which is unusual, are my ravens, my glass ravens.
Right.
So that's a very important opportunity for an artist.
You know, and so speaking, going back in terms of
Yeah.
how you create these amazing sculptures, because you use glass.
Well, let's go way
metal.
back, because in the exhibition are 28 drawings. So the sculptures came from my drawings. So artists always have to start from a peak in their career. And I had that's why I'm very excited the drawings are in the show. So the sculptures come out of the drawings. And out of the drawings came many different aspects of my sculpture. And the glass started because a friend asked me to take a glass class at Pier Atlantic with Carrie Midnox, who's not there anymore. And I thought, well, why not? And then I fell in love with glass, because glass is really beautiful and luminous. Right. And that started my work with glass.
And the glass comes from Kensington, Maryland.
Yes, for Weena Glass Store in Kensington.
That's great.
There aren't too many places to buy glass. So they basically have a lot of mosaic in different classes. So I go to Wiener's, I say, I want blue glass for my Blue Raven, and they bring out all this glass.
But in the Washington Post article, you talk about one of the Raven sculpture you worked on was white. You wanted white. And you said,
so the white raven,
white.
Yeah, the white raven was they're all white ravens, by the way. They're not mutations, they are white ravens, if you look at white ravens. They're very rare. But the white raven came out of a quote by a Northwest Indian tribe, that the white raven comes out of the snow and delivers snow, moon, and stars. And the raven becomes black because it delivers fire. And the white raven will come back when the world is peaceful. And I was so taken with that quote that I started to do a white raven, because it's rare. And the white raven was difficult to do, because you had to get luminous glass, and glass that was beautiful, that shone. And that's why my Snow White Raven was born.
Oh, wow, that's amazing. So going back to American University and the Katzen Center, and when you walked in, I mean, you're overwhelmed and with the amazing sculptures, and of course, you also have your paintings. Yeah. What was that feeling for you, just to walk in the first time and to see this incredible space?
Well, it's interesting. When I have 40 sculptures in the show, and 20 of them were borrowed from different collectors. And when you do an installation, people don't realize they come to an exhibition and it's all installed. But you want to create a magic, and I wanted a flow of work. Mm-hmm. And when I come into the gallery and it's empty, no one's there, it feels like the work is alive. That they're all, first of all, I think they're all alive at night, dancing around, and they're settling in their place. But it's an amazing experience to see different aspects dating from their sculptures from 1968, the 70s, the 80s, and yet they all work together, and they create a sense of beauty and magic.
And they speak to you.
Yes.
And you talk about this.
Yes, yes. In fact, the comment, one gentleman was there and he said, I'm shivering with excitement. And most of the comments are, I'm entering a magical world when they come into the space. They're just overwhelmed by it. And that's very gratifying, that people are taken with what I have done in my career.
Absolutely. So this transformation from abstract painting to sculpture occurred when? About 4 decades ago? I mean, when did you start to have this transformation into the
When I was at Cornell, everyone was doing abstract paint. I'm actually a colorist, and I tell people I'm painting, particularly with the glass, with color, because I'm basically a colorist. And I got very bored with flat imagery, and I reinvented myself as a sculptor. I was showing in a gallery in New York, and my friend kept saying, stop talking about becoming a sculptor. And so I invented Lady Abigail, my first sculpture. And that was shown at the American Craft Museum. And I made it out of cardboard and stuffed it. And then a photographer came and photographed me painting it. And that went around the country. And I thought, if you can get this much press, I'm going to be a sculptor. Anyway, that's when I started, 1968, I started doing sculpture. But basically, I just got bored with flat imagery, and I reinvented myself as a sculptor.
So going back, you were born in Queens.
That's right.
You studied, of course, in New York, And then you came to Washington, D.C. through your husband.
That's right.
Right? He was a lawyer.
That's right.
And that's how you ended
in
up.
68.
Okay.
But before that, I lived in Rome for 2 years.
Okay.
After college, I went to, that was very important, because to be alone, I was 21, I spent 2 years in Rome, and that influenced me a lot in classical architecture. So all your experience in life, travels, art, education, influences what an artist does.
Right. Oh, yeah. And Rome has tremendous influence.
That's right.
I can imagine, you know. Going back to your ravens, how do they speak to you? I mean, you know, you're very tied to, you know, to this aspect of your art. And you talk about that because it's, the ravens are a blend of what, mythology and philosophy, and I mean, is correct?
Yes. Well, the ravens are more than that. If you go to my show, you'll see Ethelwood throne, which is a bird that you can sit in. I've always been involved with flying objects. I've always thought it would be great to be a bird and fly. And so I've used eagles and bird symbols in a lot of my work. But the ravens are particularly different because the ravens are very unique creatures. And I always like to say I'm a Gemini and split personality, but the ravens have definite split personality. Oh. They're messengers to many cultures of transformation and hope. But on the other hand, they're scavengers, and that interests me. They're also very beautiful and very smart. They're strange birds on the wing that fly, and I've always been interested in them.
That's so interesting. So they have two personalities.
Yes, ravens, definitely. But they're also, I like the fact that they talk to people, and ravens are interesting. Like crows are groups, crows work in groups. Ravens are solitary creatures. They're just kind of, they're very different than crows. And I never understood why the ravens have mythology in all the countries, but crows don't. Ravens are very important in every culture in the world.
Can you give me examples?
What?
Like what countries have a particular
Norway, Greece,
focus on ravens?
Iceland, China, India. Every culture, if you look, have a fixation with ravens as transformation and messengers of hope and flying birds that fly into the sky, you know. And actually, scarab beetles are interesting because when beetles, I always use ravens, horses, and ravens and scarab beetles as symbols of mythology. When a lot of Egyptians die, they wear an amulet on their neck with a scarab beetle because that will transcend to heaven. And so, and the horses are very powerful in all the cultures.
In all the cultures.
Yes.
This has been fascinating. We're going to take a short break, and we'll come back and have more conversation.
All right. Good, thank you.
You've been watching The Next Word. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back.
Hey, boss. Okay?
Yeah, I'm good.
You sure?
I said I'm fine.
Since I was little, it was only like me and my parents.
You think you created family out of characters?
Yeah, of course.
I'm gonna take that and make it into a song.
Put me to bed, see you in the morning. With the frosted Superman, but it wasn't on it. And we lost it. In my head, in my head, in my head. Where you at on the way? In my head, in my head, in my head.
Hey, son.
Hey, Bob.
You can talk to me.
It's been really, really hard for me.
Welcome back to The Next Word. I'm your host, Christine Warnke. March is Women's History Month, and what better way to celebrate than to highlight the artistic work of Joan Danziger. Joan Danziger receives accolades every day for her newest collection of sculptures and her impact on young women and men artists. And you do, and I hear it all the time, Joan. So,
Thank you.
Getting back to your sculptures, can you walk through the actual process? Because does it take months to, you know, a year? I mean, these sculptures are incredible. Can you walk through that?
Yes, I will.
The creative.
Well, when I considered becoming a sculptor, you always have to figure, what are you going to use? There's an array. I didn't want to use stone, marble, I hated ceramic because it's so complicated to get the air out of the clay. And I didn't want to use a solid form. And so I reinvented myself as a sculptor using chicken wire, because every sculpture needs an armature. People don't realize. We stand on our own, but sculptures need an armature. And I knew I was going to do figurative or sculptures with animal imagery, because I've always been involved with masks and different aspects of animals. And so I invented a technique. I created forms with chicken wire, and then I discovered a material called celluclay, C-E-L-L-U-C-L-A-Y, which is cellulose, but when it dries, it's like cement. And I put that on top, I take muslin and wrap it around the wire, and then I mold the celluclay on top of it, which hardens, and then I paint it. Then I went back to my painting background, and then I painted my sculptures. And a lot of my forms you'll see when you go to my show are drawn with pen and ink line. So I go back to my drawing background. So I'm utilizing a lot of my talents of paint and modeling and drawing with ink. And then I got involved with, all right, so you become a sculptor, what image are you going to use? So I go back to my beginnings and my interest in surrealism and magic and animal imagery, because I've always loved mass imagery and different forms of creating personalities and creatures together. They're like creatures of my imagination. And then I got very involved with the women's surrealists, Leonore Carrington, Dorothea Tanning, Ramita Valdras. But actually, I'm not a surrealist artist. I'm an artist who creates fantasy work, because surrealist is really a European movement. And the artists in America and US are really dealing with fantasy imagery, because we don't have that historical background of surrealism.
Oh, that's fascinating. So I'm going to show the viewers one of your two of your sculptures. If you look, and you can talk about this, this one has one shoe on and one shoe off. Can you explain that?
Well, I was discussing that people have always three questions. How do you cut glass? They think when they come to my studio, they think glass is magical. First of all, they think it's painted. Glass is not painted. And then I have something that scores it. It's very simple, and then I cut it. The other one they ask is, why is one shoe on and one shoe off? And I say life is inconsistent. And it's actually much more interesting to have paint, color and form on one side and a white shoe on the other. And then they always ask, how long does it take? It takes a long time to do art. And the ravens are my most difficult sculptures. Remember, glass is flat, and you score it. But then a raven is round. So each top of the raven head are little abstract pieces of glass. And unlike a painter, if you don't like something painting, you paint it out. Glass, you have to take it out of the armature, and then you have to put another piece in. And by the way, when you cut glass as a chicken wire armature, you have a little piece of wire that gets attached to each armature.
Oh, well, amazing. We're going to come back to the question, the residences that you had. But before that, because I ask all my guests this, what was your most memorable experience in your 6 decades of doing art and sculpture?
I think I've had a lot of exhibitions in Texas and California and all. I think each exhibition is exciting to me, because each space is different, each curator is different. And I just love exhibiting my sculptures. And I also, it's exciting to see them in people's homes and how they react to them. Because I don't do art for myself. I do it to exhibit and for people to enjoy. And I have letters, and when I was borrowing the sculptures, for my exhibition, one woman would lend it. She said, I talk to the sculpture every morning. When I see it, I'm not going to lend it to you. And the reaction of the 20 people who lent my sculptures, they just love them. I get letters from them all the time, how much they relate to the sculptures, because they're personal. Don't forget, they're not abstract. They're figures, or they're people with masks, or they're playing instruments, or they're riding bicycles. Right. They're active sculptures doing activities. Yeah.
Fascinating.
Yes.
So you have had several residencies.
Yes.
Right. One of them being in Rome. Others, can you talk about some of those experiences?
Well, and also I'll talk about my commissions. I have a lot of public commissions, which are very important. So the residencies happened because the American Academy in Rome, I applied for a grant, and I said I was going to study the ancient root systems in Rome because I had done a lot of sculptures of trees. And because I always love trees because I think trees are full of spirit. So the American Academy in Rome is very prestigious. And I was there for a few months, and I had a wonderful studio. And of course, wandering around Rome always influences you. And then I was in Paris at the Cité and National des Arts. And being in Europe gives you another perspective. But you apply for all these different residencies. And then I was in Greece doing woodcuts on the island of Sculptor. Oh, and so I arrived in Sculptor. I couldn't do sculpture. And I decided to walk among the olive trees, and then one of the people at the residency wanted to try woodcuts. So I decided to do woodcuts.
So you were in Skopelos?
Yes, in Greece.
Wow.
I was there two times, actually, and doing woodcuts.
This was the island, I believe, where Mamma Mia was filmed.
Yes. In fact, I did a watercolor right by the church where they had the ceremony.
Which is a very tiny church.
Yes, very.
On top of a huge
yes, and a lot of pathway.
Rock.
But what's also interesting in my career, which was my public commissions. So public commissions are very important for all artists because it's a competition, but you're dealing with very complicated space. My first one was in Frostburg, where I made an 18-foot suspended sculpture.
Wow,
and that was an interesting experience because the students felt that I should explain how the sculpture and the money came from. So I encountered a group of hostile students and explained the money came from the state of Maryland. It was a great experience talking to the students, defending my sculpture. And the next one was the Washington Convention Center, where I made 3 16-foot sculptures suspended, which are now, that took probably 2 years to do, because I don't fabricate it out, I fabricate it in. And that's at the Kennedy Rec Center on 7th Street between P and Q.
Really?
You can see them suspended. And the next major one was the Glen Burnie Courthouse. And that was a major commission. I made 5 sculptures for that.
That's terrific.
Yeah, that was very big. That was like 3 big figures on bicycles, 18-foot sculptures, and 2 wall sculptures. So that took a lot of time.
That took
enormous amount of energy and a lot of people in my studio.
Going back to something, you mentioned trees. You've been fascinated with trees, and with Skopelos, I mean, the pine trees are incredible.
Yes, they are beautiful.
Beautiful, and I don't know if that inspired you at all, but that was something that I particularly noticed when I was there. But you mentioned the younger people and that, the impact you've had on young people today.
Well, I've employed a lot of young people in my studio and taught them how to use my particular technique. But I think first of all, I was very involved with the Women's Museum when it opened. I was there in 1987 when I knew Billie Holiday, and she bought one of my sculptures. When the Women's Museum first opened, I was part of the press. I was interviewed by the press at that time. So I think the important thing is to discover about the importance of women in the art world, which took a long time to kind of discover it's important. But younger artists are always amazed about how long I've been working. That I'm 91, I'm still in my studio, having a major retrospective. And when I go to my openings and I go to the lectures and I go to the Katzen, I'm always stopped by younger artists saying, we really admire your longevity and that you're still working, you're still exhibiting, and you're doing new work. It's not that I'm just exhibiting work starting from 69, but I have a whole new exhibition of ravens. That took 3 years to create.
And your studio is in the back of your house.
Yes.
In Northwest Washington.
Yeah, I have a 1902 arts and crafts house, and in the 80s I built a very large studio.
Okay, you did. And coming here, of course, you came here with your husband to Washington, D.C. Did that change things for you in terms of your artistic perspective and what you wanted to do, having come from New York? The big difference,
Well, I was very involved in the New York community, but the minute I came to Washington, I fell in love with Washington. We rented a house in DuPont Circle. I got connected with a gallery called Henri Gallery,
Yes.
who was really an eccentric dealer. And my first show in 1970 was at the Corcoran in the Rotunda. I had a band called Tangent Stock in the Flaky Nakes and an 18-foot sculpture. And that kind of introduced me to Washington very quickly. It was a show of sculptors from Baltimore, Richmond, and DC. And it was a very, I met a lot of sculptors and different artists there.
Now, you mentioned earlier that you do bring younger students into your studio. Can they apply, or how, just through word of mouth or through?
It's just word of mouth. I've had some wonderful assistants, and I just put out a feelers to different artists I know, and I've had one like working for 12 years and she left, and I have another one who just came from a University of Maryland. People like working and learning different techniques in my studio. And I meet a lot of young artists all the time.
I'm sure.
And they're always wondering, where are they going to show? What kind of work should they do? How should they follow their career path? And I say, just follow your ideas and your dreams. And it may not happen, or it may happen. Art is very complex nowadays.
It is. And your imagination, which is something that you have.
Well, you do need imagination.
Huge amounts of.
But what I also say to them, figure out, not only you can work in a different style, but you always should be open to changing your style and to have different variety of your work. I mean, I've changed continually of different subject matter, from trees to birds to ravens to a bicycle. I mean, if you look at my retrospective, you'll see a lot of different concepts and ideas. And they should be open to new experiences.
Speaking of which, did I see something about a rhinoceros? No.
Who?
A rhinoceros? Or I thought that was something that was mentioned, but in your work, I know beetles and horses and ravens, and you've done the gamut.
Well, no, there are a lot of other creatures around.
A lot of other creatures, and in fact, I just want to show your catalog.
Yes, my catalog.
Which is
my magical band. That is Sunshine's magical band.
Yeah.
And
the band.
That particular, well, that Gertrude Overnickel is going into a new children's museum, which is not built yet.
That's great.
Called Explorers Children's Museum.
So you have to let us know.
Yeah, and I've had a lot of shows in actually children's. I had 2 different shows at the Pittsburgh Children's Museum.
Oh wow! Oh, that's
where
great.
the Beatles were flying up the walls.
Oh, that's great. Well, this has been wonderful.
Well, thank you
for the interview. What an inspiration! Incredible. Thank you, Joan, for being here and sharing
my pleasure.
Your life.
Yeah.
And your artistic
That's right.
abilities and everything. You are an inspiration, but thank you.
My pleasure.
You've been watching The Next Word. If you have suggestions or comments about our show, please email info@mmctv.org. I am your host, Christine Warnke, and we'll see you the next time.